All right, joining us now to talk more about the mayor's race and the other big local political headlines of the week is our political analyst, Paul Lisnick.
I'm just going to stay here now. Why leave?
Well, because Tuesday may be a late night anyway,
Right.
so rest up. So we're hearing the closing arguments from the mayoral candidates as well as a final round of accusations. What stands out to you?
Of course, Ben, a couple things. You have to realize at this point, so many people have voted by mail or early voting. And I think people are getting a bit solidified in where they stand. So even tonight, there's accusations. Paul Vallis is saying that his Twitter account has been hacked because last night he was accused of, at least the Paul Vallis account, was accused of liking tweets that were racist in tone, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I think at this point it's 11th hour, and I think people are getting settled into where they fit. I don't know how much any of these accusations, and we're seeing there's some with him, there's the Chewy, there's the mayor, all these folks have it coming in. I'm not sure how much this is impacting people, the same way I'm not sure endorsements are mattering at this stage.
So if you've made your decision already, none of this is going to have an effect on you, all these ticky-tacky things.
I think that's right, and I think when you look at the key issues, as we all know, crime is critical, and it's how they're addressing crime and some of the economy, and I think that's what people are looking for.
All right, I want to talk about what happened earlier this week on a national level.
Yep.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was in Elmhurst, now a couple days out of it. What's been the reaction?
So it's interesting because DeSantis comes to town, and because the FOP supports DeSantis being here, and because the FOP supports Vallis, ergo, Vallis supports Ron DeSantis. And so Vallis basically said, I want nothing to do with it. They shouldn't be supporting it. But the presence of Ron DeSantis in here, look, I think the real reason he's here, it's about fundraising, it's about donors. That's why he was here. But essentially, his message was, to get word about crime, have police behind him. And I think he's attempting to be, for this state, if you want to turn away from Trump, he'll be the new Trump. There's no question the guy's running in 2024.
Before we get too far from the mayor's race, I do want to point out here that for all the build-up to Tuesday, the reality is we're 99% chance not going to know who the mayor is going to be for the next 4 years. After Tuesday, and that's because we have so many candidates. It's going to be a runoff, but there's also this quirk in the law that says if it's particularly close, we may not even know.
That's right. And by the way, I think we all agree there's not going to be a winner that night.
Right.
At best, there is a runoff that night that we will know those candidates. That's the best situation. We also know the people who have mailed in their ballots early, that's all going to get counted as long as they're received by Tuesday. But for the potential tens of thousands that come in on Tuesday or afterwards, those won't get counted until the days after. And you're right, Ben, with 9 candidates, this thing could be so close. And some of the aldermanic races could be such close that we may very well be eventually going home here on Tuesday night with a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, and in some of those aldermanic races, there's 10, 11 people running in a few of them.
Yes.
So it might get sticky. Okay, let's talk about Biden, who visited Ukraine. I'm wondering what sort of impact that is having on the American public.
So the Democrats supported the fact that he was there. Republicans said he should have been in East Palestine, Ohio, because of the derailment there. But let me point out a couple of things there. With regard to his not being in East Palestine, Ron DeWine, who is the governor, the Republican governor, Mike DeWine, I'm sorry, I knew I was saying that, was the Republican governor of Ohio, basically did an interview, and he said, first call he got was from the federal government saying, what can we do, what can we provide? He goes, nothing, we're good. So the administration was responsive. The other piece of him being there, I mean, it shows solidarity and all of that. I know that a lot of Republicans, thought it was a bad thing he shouldn't have been there. But I try to look at things from both sides. So my view is, if President Trump or a Republican were president and they were in Ukraine and they were there without military personnel on the ground protecting them, which was the Biden situation, I get a sense that a lot of Republicans would have talked about President Trump's bravery in being there and the step that he took. So I think it's probably worth giving some of those positive points. If they would give it to President Trump, then you probably get to give it to President Biden.
The other big headline of the week was this grand jury that's been meeting in Georgia about interference in the presidential election. And you have this bizarre scenario where it's a journalist's dream, right? You get to interview the foreperson of a grand jury.
You can't blame the journalist for asking.
Yeah, to find out, hey, what was going on?
Right.
Could that end up tainting the entire process, though, that you have the jury foreperson on TV giving these kind of weird hints about who may be charged and who may not be?
So Emily Kors was her name. Here's the answer to try and explain it. It's a special grand jury. It's a process we don't have here in Illinois. So forget about what had happened here. Georgia actually allows those special grand jury members to speak on things as long as they don't talk about the deliberation process, which she did not. The judge himself actually did an interview yesterday. Judges, as you guys know, don't do interviews. He came out and did an interview and basically said what she did is acceptable under Georgia law. Here's the other thing. The judge could have live, and had Fannie Willis, the district attorney, permitted it and agreed with it, the whole report could be out anyway. They just decided not to. In addition, Fannie Willis can completely reject every recommendation that's in the report, or not. There will be another grand jury that she's dealing with. That's the one that will issue the indictments, not this advisory jury at all. And just as a final point, regardless of what happens here, will any defendants who are indicted challenge what this woman did? Absolutely. That's going to happen regardless. It's more of a PR nightmare, but legally speaking, it won't turn out to be a big deal.
All right, we got to get going here, but you've got your show coming up this weekend.
So we, of course, are going to take a look at the mayor's race and at the aldermanic races of interest. Lourdes and Jaime Dominguez from Northwestern, Philip Beverly, both professors, will be talking about that with a really interesting study from Northwestern that says just because you're a minority, Latino, or African American, doesn't mean you're supporting a candidate who's of your same ethnicity or race. That and some other findings.
A lot of people asking that question
Exactly.
right now. Okay, Paul Lisnek,
Thank you, guys.
thank you so
Thanks.
much.